Hi, Anu.
Hi, how are you?
Hey,
ये
hi.
हमारे करण
Hi.
अर्जुन।
सिर्फ बैंगलोर टीम है यहाँ पे, बाकी लोग कहाँ हैं?
ये ऐसा ही होता है। ये दिल्ली वाले, नेहा दिल्ली वालों को लेके आना यार कैमरा पे।
ये आ
हाय
गया ना
प्रेम,
प्रेम।
हाय
दिल्ली वाले
चंदन।
ऑफ स्क्रीन पे ही रहते हैं।
क्यों यार?
Hi,
हाय
Divya.
दिव्या, हाय त्रिशला,
हमने एक दिल्ली वाला यहाँ पे हाजिर कर दिया फिर।
Hello.
अमन भी आ
हाय
गया है।
एमजे,
चंदन इज आल्सो देयर।
बाप रे, तुम्हारे
हाय
एक
जूही।
बोलने की देरी थी मेघा, सब आ गए।
बहुत अच्छी बात है।
कांपते हैं, खौफ है।
फराज आ गया और फराज आ गया आज। फराज आया तो मतलब केपीआई कंप्लीट आज का।
योगेश प्रधान, एवरीबडी इज हियर, फुल सपोर्ट में है विनीता आपके।
याद
Yes.
देखा, मैंने बोला ना विनीता।
फोटो ले
Good,
We are
good.
always there for Vinita. No, Vinita.
मैं रिकॉर्ड ही कर रही हूँ।
पब्लिक डिमांड विनीता।
ये ऐसे बोल बोल के नर्वस मत कर कला मुझे पहले से। I just पिंग मेघा की पूरी दुनिया जहान को उसने बुलाया हुआ है, मतलब कोई बचा है?
आप आपके स्टाइल में सबको एक गाली दे दो या सुना दो, सब आपका नर्वसनेस सब निकल जाएगा।
क्यों सेशन के पहले क्यों बदनाम कर रहे हो मुझे?
हाय निनाद।
निनाद इतना शौक है, निनाद इतना शौक क्यों है?
जब मैंने चालू किया तो सब वीडियो ऑन थे, चैट कुछ हो गया होगा।
मेघा तुम प्लीज एक स्क्रीनशॉट ले लो सब लोगों की, है ना?
लिया
कि व्हेन पीपल ले लिया ना, हाँ बढ़िया है, बिल्कुल मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट।
ठीक है, so I can should I start?
या all yours.
Okay, so I'll just share my screen. Sorry. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, Vinita.
Okay, so obviously I can't see the chat and I can't see anybody now. So just, I think I should
I'll
just go.
intervene.
Okay.
Yeah. You continue. I'll intervene wherever I see questions. I'll ask. Tell you.
Okay, fine. Okay, so let's start. Okay, I not that I'm like I'm trying to be an expert here, but if anybody wants to pitch in and if anybody has their POV, please do. Please support wherever you think you can support. All floors are open. So we are talking about all about media buying today. Okay, quickly, according to you, what is media buying or what goes on in your mind when it comes to media buying? So you can tell me or you can put it on the chat and I can see on the chat, whatever. So anybody here, what is media buying?
I think as my first thing that comes in my mind is it's the most easiest thing. कुछ करना नहीं है, बस रेट लेना है, काम खत्म, आगे कुछ करना नहीं है।
Thank you, Kala. Thank you so much. उसका मैं next slides में मैं अभी तुझे जवाब दूंगी. Sorry, Megha, what did you say?
For me, I think media buying it equals to negotiation.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I also want to answer.
बोलो जी.
I think media buying is the most important pillar in an agency because every client will finally come down and say कि इसमें कितना पैसा लगेगा और उसके लिए मुझे क्या मिल रहा है. So at the end of the day, that becomes one of the most important things which you're going to be talking about to people. I don't know what you have on the next slide, but I think this is reality right now.
But you are safe, Amita.
Nice. Give out the chocolates, Vinita.
अभी ऑफिस आऊंगी तब दूंगी मैं. But no, so to be, jokes apart, so general perception, obviously what Kala just said, easy job, brainless, कोई आर्ट नहीं, कोई साइंस नहीं, सिर्फ कोऑर्डिनेशन है, डील्स मंगाना है, डील्स देना है. एंड वन ऑफ द थिंग्स इज ल्यूक्रेटिव. पीपल थिंक कि यार पासेस मिलते हैं, पार्टी में जाते हैं, गिफ्ट्स मिलते हैं, ये होता है, वो होता है. सो दिस इज द जनरल परसेप्शन एंड we heard one of the person also saying this, okay, and but this is what we feel most of the times कि सबको लगता है buying सबसे easy job है, कुछ और नहीं आता है तो buying कर लो. Okay, that is not the case and I will come to that. What goes on in a buyer's mind? Okay, प्लानिंग के लिए पूरा 1 महीना 2 महीना, बाइंग के लिए सिर्फ 2 दिन। 2 दिन में इनको इनोवेशंस भी चाहिए, 2 दिन में बाइंग भी करना है, फ्रंट पेज पे भी चाहिए, ये भी चाहिए, वो भी चाहिए। एंड द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट कम्स व्हेन वी गेट अ प्लान इज भैया बचा लो भगवान हमको इन सब से। That is what goes on in a buyer's mind all the time. Okay, and this is true. We all know this happens. आधा दिन में बाइंग करना है, 2 दिन में बाइंग करना है. Okay, but in reality, buying, it is a science and it is an art. A lot goes behind. Before we start our buying, we do a lot of analysis, and maybe not for each and every buy, but this is a process which we keep doing on and off, on and off. Yeah, you guys can keep asking me questions, or we can keep it for later or whatever. Yeah, I'll just go on to my slides. So like I said, okay, we do use a lot of data, and we do analyze it a lot, to understand the dynamics behind the rise and the fall of media prices, the inflation, the deflation. COVID, we had a deflation, then we had, then we saw everything going back to normal. Again, in that also, some mediums are still struggling. So I will take you through all those things, okay? Then we also arrive at a forecast of media inflation. For that, we analyze the data for the full year. And ADEX data is analyzed for the full year. 2-3 years are compared. How the inventory increased, the volume consumption on print increase. So using all those data, we also arrive at a media inflation. We arrive at the fall and rise of media prices as to what price we can buy this year. Okay. So we will just discuss quickly the factors that influence the demand and supply in media. Okay. Okay, this obviously is not related directly to media buying, but these are the factors which determine the spends that an advertiser will do this year. So all your consumer price index, GDP, exchange rate, all these decide the spends that an advertiser is going to do. Okay, and basis which we know the demand and the supply in the market for every medium. We also look at the reach of media at any given point of time. So the reach of media differs. So just to give you a quick example, in COVID, we saw digital increasing, and how, the growth that we would have expected digital, the growth that we would have expected in 5 years. I think we saw that growth on digital in 2 years, and suddenly the advertising, the consumption, everything on digital increased. So you need to understand the reach of media at any given point of time. Yeah. And then the supply of media, of course. What is the FCT available on TV, on print? The total GRP is available. The video inventory available on a digital platform. Again, COVID, we all knew outdoor cinema was completely down. Nobody was buying it. So these factors really affect the pricing in the market. We also.
Vinita, Vitesh has a question.
Yep.
Thanks, Megha. And Vinita, I think you partly answered a bit the question. It's
Okay.
like, so this is a good broad science that is followed, right? Looking at macroeconomics, reach of media, supply of media, etc.
Yeah.
Now, if we take two comparison periods, one around COVID, right,
Mhm.
where there
Mhm.
potentially was a lot of inventory, probably the reach that we got from all these media would have been inflated. There would have been some sense of an inflation in the reach numbers itself, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and given the excess supply, uh, how did that impact the way you went about planning? And thereafter, once things started coming back to normal, right, how did the client's perceptions change about what the buying team is able to bring them in terms of, in terms of the actual business impact on the buying side of it?
Okay, so on the planning bit, Vitesh, during COVID, like we obviously, so that most of the categories were not even active during COVID, at least the first 6 months, because there was a complete
Right.
lockdown. Okay,
Right.
the only categories which were active was the FMCG, mainly the FMCG. Okay, and of course your e-commerce, because people were ordering a lot, people were not venturing out, right? So depending upon the client that you're handling, you would have obviously recommended certain plans. Again, during that time, if you remember, the GCs had stopped shooting, right? There were no original shows. So at that
Correct.
point of time, but see, the shows were still being aired, and people were just sitting at home doing nothing. So there was a lot of increase in consumption of TV, of digital platforms, OTT platforms, right? So you would have accordingly, suggested the client mediums which would have higher viewership at that point of time. So if I was buying on a GEC, okay, I obviously was reducing my rate because there was a repeat programming happening. So that is your buying part, which you asked me, right? So there was a lot of negotiation which happened during COVID. You know that on print, we were literally getting do pay one offer, teen pay one offer. Radio was giving us free inventory. So obviously nobody was buying. Radio though was completely down. Cinema was completely down. Outdoor was completely down. Obviously for reasons because nobody was really venturing out of the house. So, and based on all these factors, you would have recommended a plan to the client saying GC karte hai. Of course, if you get a lower rate. News was a lot in demand that time because obviously everybody was watching news at that point of time, right? Everybody wanted to know what is the update on COVID, when is the lockdown going to get over. You wanted to listen to Narendra Modi. So depending upon the category that you were handling, you would have recommended, certain medium. So obviously there was a lot of increase in the digital advertising because people were sitting at home and there was access to digital platforms, OTT platforms. So advertising on digital platforms increased. So TV and digital still survived during COVID. Print, outdoor, cinema, radio were the mediums which were affected the most. Airport, these were the mediums. So accordingly, every brand would have recommended to their clients, right? I don't know if
Understood.
I've answered your question, but if you want
Yes,
to ask
yes.
something more, I can still answer.
No, it largely does answer the question. I was just thinking wanted to get your perspective. So in case we need to start incorporating that into the way we do a lot of our analysis work and effectiveness work, because when we look
Yeah.
at historical data, the
Yeah.
COVID part of it always comes in, right? Until we hit 2024 or 2025, the COVID piece is always going to be there
It will. It
as
is.
a
We are still
hangover,
struggling. We are still
as a
struggling.
hangover. Yeah.
We are still struggling with it because there are clients who come up and say कि अरे हमको 2020 में ये रेट मिला था. मैं जब यहाँ पे था तो मुझे 2021 में ये रेट मिला था. अरे but that
Right.
was a COVID rate. And we have to understand that you will not get those rates. Print was literally giving you a 2+1, 3+1 insertions free, or rather 1 पे 2 free. उल्टा बोलूंगी मैं यहाँ पे because print was completely down. People were not buying, right? The circulation, everything had stopped. So unfortunately, we are still struggling with that. Clients are coming to us and saying कि हमको तो ये rate मिला था 2020 में. We have our clients. We had I mean, I wouldn't want to name the client, but I still get these kind of comments saying कि मेरा तो ये rate था. So you have to really battle it out saying, boss कब था आपका ये rate? कब खरीदा था आपने? कौन सा category था? So that, but I think now people have understood and we are back to our normal prices, what we were buying pre-COVID. On certain mediums, we are still struggling. Like if you ask me, radio is still struggling. Okay. Because radio, I don't think the listenership or it's back to what it was. Obviously, because of a rise of a lot of your music platforms, right? Your music, like on TV, well, TV is back, the inflation is there, everything is back. But within TV, there are certain genres which are still struggling, which I will take you through in my next slides.
So Vinita, we saw that what you just spoke, that during COVID, digital really gained a lot of traction and many people started viewing the whole and consuming a whole lot more of digital than usual.
Yes, yes.
Right? So I'm assuming that their cost also went up, right? Has that settled down now or is it still at the same level and growing?
Digital?
Yeah.
You're talking about digital consumption?
No, pricing, cost.
So the pricing, Amita, I don't think the pricing of digital went up drastically. I'll tell you why. Because there was a lot of, there was a lot of demand. There was a lot of supply also for digital. Okay. So I'll not say that the digital pricing, we saw a huge inflation in the pricing even during COVID. While the demand was very high, there was not as high inflation as we would have expected. We were still managing within our CPMs and within our whatever cost per click or whatever you want to say. So inflation was not very high on digital even at that point of time, even though the demand had really increased. See, because the thing is, Amita, while the consumption on digital increased, but the advertising was not as high because तुम advertise करके भी कौन खरीदता वो? Except for an FMCG and e-commerce, even if you are advertising on digital platform also, who will buy? Because you're not venturing out, right? So the logic was the same as on TV as on digital. Only the categories, जैसे तुम्हारा Dettol बिक रहा था. So obviously, if FMCG was very active during that point of time, you would see a lot of Dettol and Lifebuoy and hand wash and all these things. So digital also, while people had moved the consumption on digital because of lack of originals on TV, lack of a print, a newspaper in your hand, but at the same time, advertising itna nahi बढ़ा था. Purely because nobody could venture out to buy.
So rates didn't get impacted on digital is what you're saying.
Not as much. Not as much.
Okay.
I
So
have
I
another
would answer
question,
to that,
which is
Amita. In fact, it wasn't at all. The inflation wasn't
Yeah.
there in the digital
Yeah.
at all. In fact, we got a really good deals during that time, and we have executed because first 6 months it was a very hard period throughout the agencies. We didn't get any client to invest, but after 6 months, in the next up when there's a festive time, everyone was there to advertise and we
Yeah.
got a really good deals and a very negotiated rates, and that was the reason we are still struggling to pass those rates to the client.
Like I said, Amita, because consumption increase हुआ था digital पे, but advertising नहीं हुआ था ना, because people, like I said, people were stuck in the houses. So
Okay.
sorry, I think somebody was asking a question.
Yeah, Vinita, I had another question which is kind of differently related. Just, going from my experience when I was at GSK, right? One of the things that every year the buying team would have with the procurement, with GSK's procurement team, was around at a total level, uh, building in a 5% discount or a 5% efficiency over the previous year in terms of cost, in terms of price, and in terms of GRPs, right? Uh, Given you do a lot of forecasting around what the possible inflation and everything is, right? How do we manage that? How do you guys manage to get? How does and I'm not saying you specifically, you and your team, but I'm saying that the buying ecosystem in within media, right? Any buyer, let's say it's from WPP or from us or from Publicis, how are they able to give those even a 5 or a 6% sort of an efficiency over the previous year when CPRPs and all are going up?
Yeah.
I know there is a planning TG, there's a buying TG and all of that stuff, but I don't really understand that enough to answer this question.
No worries. Sorry, who is this? Vitesh only or somebody
Yes,
else?
this is Vitesh. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, I can't see, so I am just guessing. Okay, so Vitesh, see, there are two things. One is, uh, so you have when see, this happens at the time of pitching, right? When you are pitching a certain client, but even if you're not pitching that client, you have a certain understanding with the client on the inflation as well, right? The clients obviously understand that there is an inflation year on year, and you would have some. So we have worked on productivity for different clients, for JLR, for Mondelez, for Philips. So there is an inflation which is accounted for in those productivity. I'm assuming you're talking about the productivity bit here, right? So you have a inflation accounted for in the productivity. It may not be 100%. So if the market inflation is, let's say, at a 10% on TV, okay, the industry inflation I'm talking about, you would have an agreement with the client on absorbing 50% of that inflation. So a little bit of that of your inflation of your savings is taken care of by the fact that you are also absorbing. You're also accounting for a 50% inflation. So that is taken care of. Okay, one bit is taken care of by that. If you don't have an inflation arrangement with the client, then of course it's all about buying. You change your plans, you change your mix, and maybe you take see, then it's all about your buying negotiation skills and your planning skills, right? You try and you try and take less CPRP channels. You just do all those mixes, you changes in the mix. Now that is something which I don't know if I have a clear answer for that, Vitesh, because that will
Vitesh,
completely.
let me answer that very briefly for you.
Yeah.
What Vinita is saying is that whenever you give a guarantee for a lower CPRP or any kind of efficiency, it will have to be built in both planning and buying
Yes.
stage.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And with the way situations are currently, frankly, if you don't account for inflation in your buying, then you are in a very tough spot if you have to give 5 to 6% saving year on year.
Yes.
Okay. If there is a 5 to 6% saving which can be built into your media plans, it means there is something which you are not doing right this year. Because the way things are right now,
Understood. Yeah. Yeah.
it's almost an impossible situation. It means that your mix today is not as efficient as it could have been if you can give a 5% saving. If you
Right.
haven't built in, any kind of inflationary number into your next year's budget, then it means that today you are not doing something as well as you are planning to do next year, basically.
Thanks, Amita.
Understood. Understood.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
that's
Very
what I
helpful.
was trying to say. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Amita. Should I move or do you have any more questions?
Please do.
Please do move.
Thank you. Okay, so we also do a lot of inventory analysis for for the categories that we are working on. So at any given point of time, what is the behavior of an FMCG? So if I'm working on an FMCG client, I'll see what is the kind of what is the kind of inventory that an FMCG is using, or a telecom, or a consumer durables. Whether I have an edge over the category. If it's a BFSI and if it is not advertising and suddenly I'm coming into the market, maybe I can push for a better rate saying कि boss ये category active नहीं है फिलहाल के लिए, I'm giving you business. So, there are different ways and means that you can use this inventory analysis to get the rates that you want. Or at least you should have an understanding of what is the kind of inventory that your category is using and what is the kind of rate that you can expect then in that case, whether it is print or digital or TV or radio. Just a quick analysis on the rates. Okay, so I've just taken an FMCG example right now. So we all know that FMCG is the category which spends the maximum, at least on TV, right? I mean, of course, they are not as big on print, but on TV they spend the maximum, which is why they have the most negotiation power with any publisher. Okay. So big and the rates for the FMCG we all know is the lowest in the market. And I think FMCG is the only category, depending upon the kind of spends that they do. Now, I'm not saying every FMCG brand, but most of the FMCG brands which are spending really huge, like a Levers, for example. Okay, they obviously they enjoy the lowest rates in the market, and they also enjoy some kind of a CPRP guarantee, which usually the publishers don't do anymore, or for that matter, even on radio and print, of course, there is no guarantee as such, but like on a TV or a digital, the deliveries are guaranteed. But what happens in this case is the yield for the broadcaster goes down drastically, right? Because they obviously cannot survive on an FMCG account. While the spends are huge, they're probably that 50% of the inventory gets filled by an FMCG client, but the yield is very low. They are really not earning anything. So what do? They invest in impact properties. Okay, if you see all these GCs where impact properties happening, they earn their money from there, and they also sell. So in return for the CPRP or an ER guarantee on an FMCG, they also make the FMCG guy invest in their impact properties, because kuch do, kuch low types is what the hypothesis here is. And then what also happens is, because the rate on an FMCG is so low, they try and make it up on the other accounts, like your Maruti or for that matter, an auto client or a BFSI client. The rates obviously are a little higher over there. So this is how they get their monies back. So FMCG, lowest CPRP, they ask them to invest in the impact properties, and at the same time the rates on the other categories will obviously be much higher than what an FMCG enjoys in the market. So yeah. We also look at inflation for each category. So when I was talking about inflation earlier, okay, so each category has a different benchmark on inflation. Like I said, FMCG enjoys the least rates in the market, or the least CPRP in the market. Now for automobiles, the inflation would be different. Okay, for retail it would be different. So for every category, the inflation is different depending upon the amount of inventory they utilize on each genre. But what we do is we arrive at an average inflation for each medium. So TV, let's say, would be an average of 6% or 10%. Print would be 8%. But it is also important to know what is the inflation that your category is working on. And you need to know, ki, okay, fine, automobiles is at 10%. So when I am buying for 2023, my inflation or my hike cannot go above 10%. Apart from the fact that I also have a savings commitment with the client or an inflation commitment with the client. So maybe I know that I cannot go beyond a 5% on automobiles. At the same time, the industry inflation is at 10%. So I have to manage between these two numbers and arrive at my costing for the current year. This is same thing that happens on TV, print, radio, everywhere, right? Now, radio currently is really struggling because radio has not come back to the same levels as it was before COVID. Print, we had really thought that it will not come back because a lot of readership had moved to the digital platform. So TOI and NDTV, a lot of these newspapers ka digital platform had, had taken up, and we had not expected that print will go back to its original readership, but it has. Surprisingly, it has. And the last festive season was like a crazy season for us. I think we had Kara nationally, we had all advertisers spending on print and we hardly had anything on TV. So all these factors play an important role in deciding the inflation on the medium for the coming year. Any questions on this, please ask. Otherwise, I'll move to the next slide. Okay. So the art of media buying. So we discussed the science of media buying, the art of media buying. Like I said, there's a lot of intel gathering which happens. What is the category doing when you are going to buy for your particular brand? What is the category doing? What is the channel doing? What are the kind of properties that the channel has? What is it that you can really leverage on? Decode the situation in the sense ki, again, like I said, at any given point of time, what is the inventory fill on a certain channel? And I will take you, so this decoding the situation, I'll explain it in the next slide. So you need to really understand where the print or a digital partner or what is the standing of that respective medium at that given point of time. You need a lot of soft skills for this. Obviously, you need to have good relationship with your with your publishers to get all these kind of informations. Also, a lot of data you can get it internally, but a lot of this is dependent upon the publishers and what kind of information you can get out of them. And of course, then there is negotiation, which is soft skill plus hard skill. When I say hard skill, I don't mean that you scream and shout and you be rude, because believe me, that gets you nowhere. And I have seen this, I have seen people screaming, shouting, and trying to say, this is my way or the highway. वो नहीं चलता है. You have to have a good relationship with the vendor. Okay. Uh, Critical factors which are involved in media buying. Of course, client requirement. You get your requirement, and you base your plans and buys on that. Client location. I don't know if people are aware, but a rate in south differs from a rate in north and a rate in west. Purely because so Delhi has a lot of automobile clients. Okay, so obviously the rates there are higher than maybe a Bombay, because Bombay has a lot of FMCG brands. Okay, then again in south the advertisers are limited. So the inventory that a Star Plus gets or a print medium gets, they get very limited inventory to sell, and because of that, that yield needs to be higher. So a client location really makes a lot of difference. Also because of the categories that are there in each of these regions. Client eagerness. A lot of these publishers have now started going to the clients, and the kind of interest that the client shows, it really decides our negotiation power. Client ne dekha, bola, ha, okay, theek hai, I'll get back to my agency. But if the client shows too much of eagerness, then it really hampers. And we have been telling our clients saying ki boss, aap mil lo, but आप प्लीज इतना eagerness मत दिखाओ, because then the publisher knows कि ये तो client को चाहिए ही चाहिए किसी भी हालत में. So then our negotiation power is hampered, and we've had too many examples in the recent past. Okay, situation assessment, like I said, I'll give you a classic example for the situation assessment is the current IPL, right? There was a point when Star wouldn't listen to you. For them, it was like my way or the highway. Okay. Today, we are sitting on 20th or 21st April, and they are still struggling to get sponsors. By this time, they are sold out on inventory. They are sold out on sponsors. They are sold out on all their features. We have features available on Star Sports, on Jio. So you know that they are on a back foot. Okay, so you need to use it to your advantage and accordingly do your negotiation. So that is very important, to assess the situation at any given point of time. Of course, inventory, demand, and supply. Here again, currently, sorry, I'm giving a lot of TV examples because it's just the easiest to give, and I have been working on TV for donkey's years now. So, uh, inventory demand in the sense, English genre today is a dying genre. Okay, it was anyways dying probably 3-4 years back, and COVID has completely screwed it. People have completely moved to OTT platforms when it comes to the English genre. So you have a lot of supply on the English genre, but the demand is very less. The demand has gone down. Same for a music genre. The demand has gone down drastically. People have moved to Spotify and other music platforms. So you need to understand that. But there are still clients who want to be present on an English news genre, obviously because of the product, because of the niche product that they are. But today, if you do an inventory analysis, English news channels are literally selling 3 to 4 minutes an hour, whereas the ideal inventory sell for them is 16 minutes an hour, and they are literally sitting at 5 to 6 minutes an hour. So these are the kind of things that you need to understand, and you need to use it to your advantage. Okay, competition. How aggressive is your competition? Historical demand and growth. Again, this is all key, how the category has been performing in the past. And so like, like last year, e-commerce was very high. Suddenly, you're not seeing e-commerce so high. And if you are an e-commerce category, maybe you can use it to your advantage, right? Relationship I spoke about earlier. चिल्लाने चिखने से कुछ नहीं होता है. You have to have a good relationship with your publishers. For you, believe me, प्यार से बात करो, you will get 10 things, you'll get 8 things out of 10. चिल्ला के बात करो, you will probably get 2 things. So it's very important, right? Agency cloud, of course, there is no rocket science in this. The kind of business that you give to a publisher is very important. The kind of cloud that your agency has in the market is very important. टाइम इन हैंड. मेरा तीसरा स्लाइड यही था कि भाई कितना टाइम है मेरे पास. 2 दिन है, 1 दिन है, 10 दिन है. व्हाट इज द टाइम दैट वी हैव इन हैंड, राइट? Seasonality also plays a very important factor. Like we have always seen, December the spends really go down. The overall advertising spends across mediums really goes down. Then again, Jan, Feb, March is very big for BFSI automobile, right? April, May is very, very big for your white goods and your soft drinks. So depending on that, your pricing will change, right? So while these are the critical factors, the ones which really impedes the negotiation, I have highlighted in red because that is really, it really impedes the negotiation, which is a client eagerness, which I really spoke about in the previous slide. We have had instances where itna client ne interest दिखाया है कि publishers have not reduced the rate because they know कि client तो आने ही वाला है इस property पे. So that really impedes the negotiation. Situation assessment, like I spoke about IPL. If you don't know nothing about these things, obviously you will just go and land up and go and pay a price which you shouldn't be paying. So you have to be in control of the situation. Relationship again is something which I really harped on in my previous slides. You have to have a good relationship with the publishers. I have got complaints in the past, in my previous agency saying कि तुम्हारा बंदा ठीक से बात नहीं करता, ये नहीं करता. You can't have this kind of. See, there's a difference between being aggressive and being rude. आप aggressive बनो, आप अपने rate से हटो मत, but that's aggressive. But you can't be rude. So there is a difference. There is a clear difference between being aggressive and being rude. So we need to understand that. Yeah. Time in hand, of course, that goes.
word बताऊं, Vinita, instead of being aggressive, you should keep telling your people, try to be assertive. The moment you give them a different word, unka mind and body language will change. And then people, when they are trying to be assertive and not aggressive, their behavior is different. Try to give them that word. Maybe that will make it easier for you to manage.
पता है बहुत ट्राई किया है ये सब ना, एक्सपीरियंस से सब शांत होते हैं, इज व्हाट आई फील. कितना भी ट्राई कर लो उनको समझाने का. I think over a period of years, I think it's when you just learn and when you understand. I think it comes at your own personal experience. You can sit with them and you can explain it to them.
I am just trying to say that for the new starters, maybe the word aggressive should be taken out of our vocabulary when we are trying to mold and train the youngsters. Give them a different point of view.
Point taken, Amita. Thank you.
If I can add, Vinita,
Yeah.
Anu here.
Yeah.
This, in terms of your relationship management, what I have experienced in the past, I think an empathetic approach also really helps you build the relationship, because as much as need, I mean, they need you, we need them too.
Yep.
And therefore, as partners, if we try and approach, and there are certain weak spots of theirs which we are able to help them on, or those kind of things, I think that empathetic approach somewhere also helps getting us good deals or better rates. So that's
True.
adding to the same thing about getting your rates, I mean the relationship management.
I agree.
So
Anu. Yeah.
that's my little bit
No,
of
I think
experience.
perfectly articulated. I think we need them more than probably they need us. So yeah, you have to be emphatic in your in your conversations and everything. I completely agree with that. Also, the two things which I've added here are internal information leakage. What I mean here is plan banate hain, pata nahi, somehow everybody gets to know they are in the plan, a particular channel is in the plan, a print partner is in the plan, radio station in the plan. You can't leak this kind of information. People are calling you, tell them, boss, none of your business what I'm doing on the plan, because this really, the moment they know कि हम तो plan में हैं, तो किसी ना किसी तरह तो हमको लिया ही जाएगा. That also really hampers the negotiation skills. You can't, whether it is a planner or a buyer or anybody, you can't leak this information. You can't discuss your plan with the outside world, and this happens. I'm saying this because I have seen this. I have seen this happening. So this cannot be done. Okay. Too many stakeholders involved. Now, internally, तो हम सब try करते हैं buying करने का, but there is also a client. When the client quotes a price to the publisher, there it's gone. There you're gone. And we have had just some recent two experiences. I really don't want to name the client here, but the client has gone and quoted a price to the vendor. Okay, and believe me, the thing which we would have probably gotten at maybe another 50 lakhs lesser, we had to pay the price because the client just went and said, मेरे पास ये पैसा है. So, we confronted this with the client. We said, "Ki boss, mat karo yaar. You're really hampering your negotiations." And the client agreed. He said, "Acha, theek hai, nahi karunga next." Matlab, this is something which you need to really very nicely and you need to confront the client with this if something like this is happening. Okay, and too many stakeholders within the agency also not good. Yeah.
So, Vinita,
The client is
Vitesh
asking
again.
for a lower rate, Vinita. Now.
Go ahead,
Sorry?
please.
That same client is asking for a lower rate now.
अरे वो क्लाइंट तो छोड़ दो वैभव. अगर मैंने उस क्लाइंट के बारे में बात चालू की तो ये सेशन खत्म नहीं होगा. वो क्लाइंट का छोड़ दो अभी. उस क्लाइंट के ऊपर
वो क्लाइंट ना ऐसे अटक गया है ना, उसको निगल सकते हैं ना उगल सकते हैं. वो बैठा हुआ है हमारे गले में.
मेरे पास गन भी नहीं है ना, तो मैं उसको शूट कर देती. अलाउड नहीं है ना, तो वो एक इकलौता क्लाइंट है जिसको मैं शूट करने के लिए तैयार हूँ. बट उसके ऊपर मत बात करो वैभव, ये सेशन का 1-2 घंटा निकल जाएगा. नहीं तो
हमको लगा स्टार्टिंग से जो भी एग्जांपल दे रहे हो वही क्लाइंट के बारे में दे रहे हो.
सॉरी, नहीं, ये वो क्लाइंट नहीं है. वो क्लाइंट एक्चुअली मेघा को बोलूंगी उस क्लाइंट के ऊपर एक अलग से 1 घंटे का सेशन रखे. ठीक है.
Vinita, sorry, this is Vitesh again.
Had a
sorry
question,
to be a pain.
Yeah.
Sorry to be a pain, but I have a more fundamental question. If we are the buying team, we are in negotiations with the channels and the inventory holders. Then what is the client's role in all of this? And why are they there in this entire process?
They are not there. Matlab, I didn't understand. Why would they be involved in the buying process?
Correct. So if we're saying that, client eagerness and clients quoting a price directly to the publisher impedes the negotiation, obviously it does, right?
Yeah.
But that also suggests that in this entire process of rate discussions and negotiations between channels and the buying team, client bhi kahin na kahin to ghusi aa raha hai na. So my question is,
sorry.
So my question is that, is this the right way to think about what is the process and what is the client's role in all of this?
So I'll tell you what. So I'll answer this question. Okay, client को अगर घुसना है negotiation में घुसे. Okay, यहाँ पे वो negotiate नहीं कर रहा था वितेश. उसने बंदे को बोला मेरे पास 2 crore है इस प्रॉपर्टी का. वो ना सीपीएम पे बात कर रहा था, ना वो कॉस्ट पर क्लिक पे बात कर रहा था, वो ना रीच पे, इम्प्रेशन, किसी चीज पे बात नहीं कर रहा था वो।
तो
उसने
ये
खाली
पीठ पीछे जाके इसने बोला है।
Vitesh,
हाँ
to
उसने
give you a more fundamental answer, to your very, very
Yeah.
fundamental question, the money rests with the client.
Yes.
Okay. He's the guy
Yes.
who's controlling the purse.
Correct.
We are only mandated to negotiate on his behalf. Okay.
Got it.
Now,
Got
if
it.
the client is very eager for anything, okay, there is a Vinita who is negotiating on his behalf and she is holding firm कि मैं तो ये rate से कम में बात
sorry,
नहीं करूंगी.
just give me a minute.
Okay.
I'll just come back. Sorry, give me
Yeah.
a minute.
Yeah.
So उसमें क्या होता है Vitesh, that the publisher feels that it might be easier to get an answer from the client in his favor. So they all want to talk to the client
Got it.
because they feel
ठीक है.
that he is a softer sell.
Got it.
Vinita
Yeah.
के पास तो इतना सारा information है, she will negotiate based on that data. Plus she's got damn years of experience backing her, and she can hold firm. उधर से
It's an insidious way of getting their way
yes,
to
absolutely.
some extent.
And
Yeah.
lot of
Okay. Got
these
it.
publishers have made it a very strong suit. You look at a Times, you look at a Star, they all will always go to a client. They will go to a
Understood.
client
ठीक है.
and try to pump him and try to get a better deal out of them.
All
Right.
the business channels, all
Yeah.
the business channels go directly to the clients. Okay, they pitch all their properties to the client directly because they think agency कुछ नहीं करती है.
सही बात.
Vitesh, I would like to add on to Amita's thing, right?
Yes, please.
So what happens, especially in North, we have individual versus agency thing, right? Individual is a brand manager, right? Who is at the client end, and they want to get the more brownies from their management, and that's how they play that agent. They are better than the agency, and they go
Right.
for
Right.
the
Yes.
negotiations. They get the better deal than the agency. Although they need the agency, they wanted to show they are better than the agency. That is the main thing.
Understood.
And Vitesh, just to answer your question, ki how can we use the client in we do use the client. There are times when I feel that I have not got the best rate and maybe I can better it a little. Okay. Or maybe I can add something else. So we take the client into confidence and we have we usually don't entertain this. But if it comes to that, we usually take the client into confidence, have a tripartite meeting, tell them कि बस आप ये मांग लेना इसमें channel के पास से या publisher के पास से, and then we will take it forward. But that has to be done in discussion with the agency. You can't and you can't decide कि मैंने इसको ये मतलब 2 करोड़ बोल दिया. कैसे बोल रहे हो आप ना negotiate कर रहे हो, ना CPM negotiate कर रहे हो, ना reach, ना impression, ना deliverables, कुछ भी नहीं कर रहे हो. आप सीधा उसको बंदे को बोल रहे हो कि मेरे पास 2 करोड़ है इस प्रॉपर्टी के लिए. मैं उसको शायद 1.5 करोड़ में क्लोज कर सकती थी, बट क्योंकि क्लाइंट ने बोल दिया है मुझे नहीं मिलेगा वो 1.5 करोड़ पे, मैं कुछ भी कर लूं. Then for me what I can do is then ठीक है 2 करोड़ तो अभी वो नहीं बच कर रहे. Then how I can salvage the situation is try and get more deliverables in that deal. अगर 100 seconds मिल रहे थे तो मैं अब उनको बोलूंगी मुझे 150 दो या 200 दो, something like that to salvage the situation. Yeah.
Got it. ठीक है.
Vinita, 2 more questions, one from Aditya and one from Vaibhav.
I thought वैभव का तो हो गया था, पर वैभव के पास और कुछ है?
Yeah, so slightly on a serious note, Vinita, in few meetings where sometimes buying team is not there and client tries to take advantage of such situations and says that "Ki, this is not the best rate," right? Lot of times you would have come across this question कि इससे better rate तो हम लेकर आ सकते हैं. This is not the best rate kind of a conversation. How do we assert in this particular scenario that we have done the best job? This is the best. You will not get better than this in the market because there is a art and science which we have applied. How do you put it across? How do you prove it to the client? Because this keeps coming, right?
So Vaibhav, see, there are 2 things. One is you convince them with the average rate that Dentsu operates at in that category, okay, and say that boss, you are either above that or you are at the par depending upon the spend levels. That's a scientific way of doing it, okay. I have gone through this. I've gone through this, okay. You tell them कि boss, the benchmarks that you're talking about. Okay, so what are those benchmarks? Which period did he buy that particular property? What was the year? What was the kind of spends? अब आप मेरे को बोल रहे हो कि आपको 1000 रुपए का रेट मिला था, ठीक है, पर उस 1000 रुपए के लिए आपने कितना खर्चा किया था? आपने 150 किया था कि 200 किया था? और आज आप 50 करोड़ कर रहे हो, तो आप 50 और 150 में यू आर एक्सपेक्टिंग द सेम रेट. So see, these are the kind of conversations, Vaibhav, that you need to have with the client and convince them somehow. There is a scientific way of showing them your Densu average, and then there are these conversations that you tell them, boss, या तो आप अपना benchmark बताओ ना हमको. You show it to us on paper, which the client will never agree because he is faffing most of the times.
Right. Right. So this is in a client situation. Sometimes when we are in a pitch call, at that point of time also client says कि ये agency ने तो better rate दिया.
यार उसका तो अभी सॉरी बट उसका कोई आंसर नहीं है. वो पिच में तो वो पिच करते ही इसलिए है कि सेम. नाउ टेल मी समथिंग, व्हाट इज द लॉजिक, वैभव? हम पिच कर रहे हैं, हमारा ही क्लाइंट है और अब वो 3 साल के लिए फिर से पिच पे जा रहा है, और हमारे ही क्लाइंट को हम 10% लेसर रेट पे पिच करते हैं. मतलब कोई लॉजिक ही नहीं है ना. तो पिच के सिनेरियो में तो यार I seriously have no answer, because I have been wondering myself that for an existing client, which is our own client, okay, when it goes on pitch, we give them a 10% lesser rate so that the client stays with us. Is there any logic to it?
We are not working on efficiency now, or we are willing to absorb losses.
Exactly.
Either of the two scenarios, which should not be spoken about at all ever.
So हमारा आर्ट और साइंस दोनों आउट ऑफ विंडो चला जाता है फिर तो.
पिक्चर्स में तो चला जाता है वैभव, क्योंकि मुझे पता है मैं कैसे प्राइसिंग भरती हूँ. अब मुझे ये फोरम में डिस्कस ही नहीं करना है, ये हम अलग से डिस्कस करेंगे कि पिच में हम कैसे प्राइसिंग भरते हैं.
I was going to intervene and say that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Let's
I
move to the
understand.
next question. दूसरे क्वेश्चन पे जाते हैं.
Adi.
Yes, I just had a thought on the information leakage to publishers, right? I just was wondering, like, हम लोग जो brief करके we get the plans and proposals from publishers, that itself kind of sets an expectation or rather a signal that they are being considered in the plan. So how do you evade that?
No, that is, see, अभी वो तो करना ही पड़ेगा ना आदित्य. तुम्हारे पास एक प्लान आया है, but you very clearly tell them कि boss, the inclusion will depend upon what kind of rates and CPRP and ER and CPMs you are giving me. You are not giving them a confirmation that you are there in the plan. You're just asking them for a 10 lakh plan with the deliverables, and then you tell them कि boss हम compare करेंगे, हम decide करेंगे. पर अगर आपका planner जाके ये बोल देता है कि client को plan गया है और उसमें तुम हो, then it's a problem, na? I was talking about that kind of leakage. And this happens across the board. Across the board.
So certain
Sorry, I
publishers,
don't know.
yeah,
Sorry?
that pretty much answers it. I mean, just as a follow-up thing, there are a lot of publishers with whom we work on a very regular basis, like quarter on quarter, we make sure that they're on the plan. So at least with them, because they'll have at the back of the mind कि हर quarter तो हम लोग use करते ही हैं. How do you make sure they budge?
So see, that is something now. See, Aditya, that is not now all on negotiations, right? You either do an annual deal with them, okay, or if you don't have a clarity of an annual deal, okay, you use it to your advantage. Maybe after 6 months, you say, "Ki boss, we didn't have a clarity. We didn't have an overview of the spends at the beginning of the year. I have been spending on your platform a month on month, okay. Now you please give me a better rate, or you get something out of them." Like just yesterday I met a publisher and I said, boss, initial beginning of the year we didn't have a clarity, okay, obviously we were working on certain rates. I have a clarity now कि मैं पूरे साल में कितना खर्चा करने वाली हूँ. So I need a better rate, better value add, better incentive, better bonusing. And the publisher agreed. He said, yeah, let's work on it together. So that is something, Aditya, which I will say that it is completely your negotiation skills.
But Aditya, this discussion should be routed through buying, not the plan. Planning shouldn't do such discussions with the vendors.
No, Neha, I don't think he's talking about bank planning here. He's just generally saying कि अगर आप उसके ऊपर खर्चा कर ही रहे हो तो वो कैसे कम करेगा आपका, right?
Right, but I'm taking one incident. That's why.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's. I think somebody else has also raised their hand.
नेहा के सारे दिल के दर्द निकल रहे हैं अभी कि Neha, we will capture that later. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Pooja, you had a question?
Yes, Vinita, hi, this is Pooja.
I
I had a question. So, can we have like a predefined clause with the client that, I mean, if you contact publishers directly, then this will severely impact negotiations and will ruin the entire process of
पूजा
buying?
क्लॉज तो नहीं होता ऐसे क्लाइंट ऑब्वियसली तुम्हारा सुने मतलब सुने आई वोंट से सुनेगा नहीं क्लॉज नहीं हो सकता बट लाइक आई गेव यू अ रीसेंट एग्जांपल राइट वेयर द क्लाइंट वेंट एंड गेव अ नंबर टू द पब्लिशर एंड वी अपफ्रंट कन्फ्रंटेड हिम राइट सेइंग कि बॉस मत करो क्योंकि हमारा ऑब्वियसली नेगोशिएशन इसमें बहुत हैम्पर हुआ है एंड ही अग्रीड so this is something which you need to have a conversation with the client. There is no written clause or anything as such. He may still do that again. बट देन यू नीड टू टेबल इट सेइंग कि बॉस तुम्हारी वजह से हमने इसको इस पे क्लोज किया है नहीं तो हम शायद इस पे 20 लाख और कम कर सकते थे एंड वी हैव टेबल्ड इट वी हैव पुट इट ऑन मेल सेइंग कि दिस इज व्हाट हैज हैपेंड if because at the end of the year फिर वो प्रोडक्टिविटी में बोलेंगे तुमने डिलीवर नहीं किया सो यू नीड टू नो कि बॉस ये इस वजह से हमने डिलीवर नहीं किया इफ यू आर आस्किंग कुछ रिटर्न क्लॉज हो सकता है वो नहीं हो सकता you just need to have these conversations with your client you have to have that comfort level with your client that you can have these conversations.
And sometimes, despite having these conversations, there are clients who are very eager to participate in the whole, um, discovery and negotiation process. And it has never yielded good results.
Right.
Vinita is not taking names of clients, but Vinita, maybe you can speak about your experience with Novocura. Now it's old. So possibly to explain to the team in a brief manner, तुम बताओ वहां क्या हुआ था?
I'm not sure. It's too large a forum to, really take out
ठीक
one
है, फिर छोड़
client.
दे. हाँ.
Yeah, I think too large a forum, right, to really talk about one particular incident.
Vinita, I had two set of questions, and this is purely from a larger team perspective, just to get the logic and science behind it. So, this practice of making sure that everything gets into um, the buying team okays it, and then we get into the plan. It's a procedure and a protocol that we've started following now. Can you help us understand that what really happens if a planner doesn't follow that, and what breaks into it? Because while it's been told to everybody that it's a practice and a process to follow, we still aren't really adhering to it. So if you could just help us explain that when a planner does that as a protocol across all their set of clients, how it helps the overall Densu from a buying perspective.
Yeah, so Megha, okay, so unfortunately, I won't delve too much into it because obviously it's at a larger agency level interest. But what happens is we also have certain deals with certain publishers, right? So where you if you spend a certain amount with a certain publisher, you also get some kind of an agency incentive. Okay. So you try and skew your spends towards those publishers where your client is benefited, you are benefited, everybody, it's a win-win case. So the idea for an approval is just so that we can monitor the publishers that you've added in the plan and whether it also suits the agency, whether it helps the agency earning in the revenues. I think I
Okay.
don't want to delve too much into it, but the idea is,
You help answer that. I think for the larger team, it just wanted to highlight this point that monitoring is important, which is
yes,
why it needs to root through them, and which
yes.
is why Neha's emotion rose out at that point of time. So I completely understand Neha that, and we are trying to make that as a practice. So don't worry, we'll definitely get it there. Neha, Darshan, you have a question.
हाँ जी so Vinita, ecom pay
Hello.
what is the sorry
Say hi.
okay
Anayaka, say hi. Say hi. Name पूछो. छोटे बेबी का name पूछ के आओ क्या है? तो
Tanvi, you will have to go on mute, please. Yeah, Darshan, go ahead.
yeah so ecom pay what's the scenario right now when you negotiate? I mean is it uh, challenging, not challenging? Is there a scope? There's not much scope because I think last time you had dropped an email. At that time, you said ki it's still in the discussion for ecom while the other third-party players and all of that is in place. So, abhi filal, what's the scenario?
Are you talking about an overall agency level deal, Darshan?
Yes.
Acha,
Yes,
wo that is
agency
this is
level and plus, e-com level when you deal with the e-com partners like Amazon and Flipkart.
so you're
Uh,
talking. Okay, Neha,
Vinita,
you
can
want to?
I answer that thing?
Yeah.
So
Except for the
Darshan,
agency deal bit, you can answer the other part.
yes. So Darshan, for any particular brand or sort of thing, na, these Amazon or Flipkart never negotiate for on a campaign to campaign basis. What they ask for year-long visibility in the initial level. So once we'll have the initial level visibility that how much the brand is going to spend, then they're going to extend the deal for the particular brand. For example, they say they're going to spend somewhere around 5 to 4 crore on 2023. So they will share their slab that if the brand spends somewhere around 1 to 2 crore, these are the value as in the discount will be passed on to the client, or if they reach to this level, this would be the discount which will be extended. For that, they want the initial visibility to go ahead with. But usually
Okay.
it doesn't happen with from because we never get the visibility from the planning team. If you're able to help us with that, it will be makes our job very easy and we can go back to the e-com
Okay.
platforms and ask for it.
Achha, understood. Okay.
On the other bit,
So
Darshan,
either it
I
is
will
the
connect with you
investor.
separately.
Okay, done. Done. Okay.
No, you can ask now, but on the other bit which you talked about the agency level, that I'll connect with you separately. This is not the forum, so.
So I just wanted to understand that it's happening basis either on a bigger investment value
Yeah.
or either it is on a yearly basis.
I think if you can give them an upfront commitment, then maybe you can work out something. Ad hoc basis पे नहीं करते हैं ये.
अच्छा, ठीक है. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Faraz, go ahead.
Hi. I believe there might be at the deck left ahead, but ठीक है. टाइम का दूसरा आई जस्ट ऑल्सो वांटेड टू नो द वो छोटे बेबी का नाम क्या था. My question actually is in terms of the career path actually Vinita, I don't know आप अपना बता दीजिए example. You got into buying first or there is a need for the planning experience, because obviously it has to go hand in hand. Same if I put in through strategy into it, right? If I would want to get into strategy तो मुझे पहले planning आना चाहिए या buying आना चाहिए, right? So how did you come across that, and finally you have reached a place that where you are an established name in the market right now across agencies as a buyer. I knew about you even before joining Kara, hence I'm putting that out. So in terms of the career choices, how do you think one can go about that between planning and buying?
Whereas it's upon your interest levels, right? Like, I don't know if I can correctly answer that. I will try to. If you ask me, I started my career with operations. Okay.
Okay.
I have started with operations. I think I've done operations for almost 7-8 years of my life, and then I got into buying. I have also seen a little bit of the planning side. It never interested me. Okay. Buying
Mhm.
is what interested me more because I could converse with a lot of publishers, and I think I like that part where I'm really meeting people and I have an upper hand. I have the negotiation power. I think all this just excited me a lot. वो planning का numbers research वो मैं नहीं कर पाई. मतलब somebody told me कि why don't you get into planning because you're good with numbers. I said नहीं. And frankly, yeah, sorry if if I want to be just a little light on the lighter note, ये planners की कोई जिंदगी नहीं होती है. दिन रात
Mhm.
काम ही करते रहते हैं. मुझे वो नहीं करना था दिन रात. एटलीस्ट यहाँ पे मेरे पास एक चॉइस होता है कि भैया पब्लिशर्स बंद हो जाते हैं 6-7 बजे के बाद, वीकेंड्स पे काम नहीं करते हैं. Sorry, so just that was on a lighter note,
No, no,
but
that is
but
indeed insightful. Yeah.
planning never excited me. So I think I don't know if I can really correctly answer your question, but it is your interest levels. Okay. I it took me a longer time probably to reach here because it was a slow journey for me because I started my life as an operations in the industry, operations person. So, and it interested me. Operations ke baad buying really interested me, and that's how I am here.
Okay, just an add on, a very simple question in that case. A fresher can get into buying straight away. Is that a yes or a no?
Yes, of course.
Yes,
I
okay.
can I answer? Can I answer, Vinita? For us,
हाँ जी कला.
Yeah, sorry, Vinita, I'm hijacking, but yes, a fresher can join
Of
because
course.
I'll tell you with my experience, I joined as a buyer. Vinita was one of my bosses then when I was into a buying team. But like she said, right, there is a see, I loved buying. It's not that it just I didn't like it. I loved buying, and it was more fun to do it. But somewhere I had this inclination towards planning as well. But आज के तारीख में when you ask like is it good it's good to know every aspect of what you're doing. You may choose one thing like at the end like how
Yeah.
Vinita is a buying expert, but it really helps if you know certain you don't need to understand how to make a plan, but if you understand the nuances of how things work,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
it makes you much more richer in whatever you deliver. So yeah, as a fresher, I was a buyer. So I clearly remember how Vinita was, and I mean she was one of the bosses what I have worked with very closely. Uh, but it is really like if you have a flair for it and if you really like it, I mean it's really there is a lot of
So
hard work though.
Faraj, just to add to Kala's point, when you said you should know the planning nuances, of course you
Hmm.
should. So today, if I want to drop a star plus from the plan because I'm not getting the correct price, I cannot
Hmm.
replace a star plus with a Z and mole. I need to
Hmm.
understand what is the other channel which will give me a similar reach and similar GRP and similar CPRP, right? I need to understand that nuances. Okay,
The
I have to,
fundamentals.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, of course. So I can't just say यार स्टार प्लस गिरा दो मेरे को प्राइस नहीं मिला है तुम जी अनमोल ले लो नहीं कर सकती मैं वो. So that understanding you obviously
Ji.
need to have.
Ji. Got it. Got it. Thank you so much, Sunita.
And I just want to add, I didn't inspire Kala enough to become a buyer. So I was probably not a very great boss. Anyway, I think I'll just quickly move because we are already kind of. I'll just quickly go across. Evaluating the proposal across mediums. I think I've talked about it a lot already. So on TV, you evaluate your CPRPs, effective rates. You look at your prime time, non-prime time, depending upon the brands that you're working on. You put a cost effectiveness on sponsorships. What is the kind of reach, which I just discussed? What is the Star Plus giving you versus a Z and Mole giving you? You have your reach plans and you have your channels and you have your frequency channels. So all these things, you get into your cost benefit analysis. Similarly, on print, what is the CPT you're getting? What is the reach? What is the coverage by geography that print partner is giving you? The upgrades and needs. So upgrades, what I mean by upgrades is, historically that, a particular publisher has been giving me upgrades. I buy a page 3 and he upgrades it to a front page in every campaign. So you land up really taking that publisher because you know that you will get these kind of upgrades, right? Again, digital, you evaluate your deals on CPM, eCPM, clicks, completion rate. Cinema, again, you really need to understand your theater category, the profiling of the audience, depending upon your target audiences, where how then you will choose your cinemas, the kind of movies that you want to choose. Again, this will all depend upon your own TG. One of the important things is audience capacity and percentage attendance, right? A capacity may be for 200 people, but is it getting full? Are 200 people going for the movie in that theater, or is it just at a 50% capacity? So that is very important to know. And of course, the location. Radio listenership, of course, RJ profiling. Time band is very important because usually on a radio, you land up taking a morning and evening time band because that is your driving time. You don't really take afternoons anymore because, like I've said this earlier also, your music has really shifted to a Spotify or all these other platforms. I think driving is the only time when you may get some kind of a listenership, right? Of course, then the station popularity and station coverage. So, if you have a Radio Mirchi, a big FM, you know that you're covering most of your markets within India. So that automatically just features in your plan if you have a pan India campaign. Outdoor, of course, again, location of the hoarding, sizes, non-lit, front-lit, backlit, innovation, all these things play a very important part when you are planning for the brand. Sorry, I'm just going a little fast because we have overshot the time. So if you want to stop me, please stop me. Uh, Even after the best evaluation, you are still always wondering whether it was a good deal or can there be a better deal. Just to give you an example, so like you are always wondering, should I wait or should I close now? So like an IPL, You're wondering whether, right now we are wondering whether we should wait for another 2 days and maybe our price will go down considering what the situation is right now, or should I just close it? So these questions are always there in a buyer's mind, and you are never satisfied. The moment, even after you sign the deal, you're never satisfied. And it is obviously who blinks first, whether it's a client, the agency partner. And when I say, when I say, should I wait, should I close, who blinks first? There have been times where we have asked for a certain price from a channel or a publisher, and they have agreed. And then you're sitting and thinking, "Arey yaar, thoda aur kam mang leti." So these questions are always there at the back of your mind. I'll just quickly, I have only 3-4 more slides. So, there is a business growth strategy, buy, borrow, build. So I have taken up these 3 parameters, and I have based my strategy on these 3 pillars. Okay. So in media buying, there are 3 kinds of properties that you can buy. So there is a regular buying, which is your regular spot buys on a prime time show, prime time buys, news hour pay, fixed ले रहे हो 9 p.m., 8 p.m., 10 p.m. So those are your regular buys, okay? Your CPRP deals, Star Plus पे आप एक combination ले रहे हो PT, NPT का. So those are all your regular buys. Astons आप buy कर रहे हो news channels पे, L bands, right? So that goes in the buy basket. Borrow is something where you want to make an impact, okay, but you either don't have enough time to create your own property or the budgets, or you have found a property where you can convey your brand proposition, okay. So you partner with those existing properties where you're a part of the ILU, you're part of all your marketing promotions, you get your integrations within the show. So that is a borrow model, like a super dancer or an Indian Idol, and I will show you an example on this. And then you have a build. Okay, so where you build the entire property from a scratch, you brief the channel, and this is not a channel property. This is your own property. You just create it from scratch and you build it over the years. Now, again, here, if you want to do it for 1 year, we suggest that don't do it. It's, if you want to build something, you need to build it over a number of years. Okay, and remains exclusive to the brand. Evaluation parameters, like I said, CPRP and ER is what you. So I'm giving you here TV examples. We can always come back if people have more queries on other mediums. Borrow. Here, what you do is you evaluate every component of the deal, like a FCT, promo tag, integrations, Astons, brand mentions. But what you do is, like, if it's a 30-second promo, you don't put a value on that entire 30-second. You put a value only on your 2 or 3 second credit line, which you're getting as a part of the promo, because the promo is talking about Indian Idol. You are getting a 5-second tagline. So to arrive at what kind of cost you should pay to the publisher, you need to just at least, evaluate all these components and put a price to it. And then accordingly start your negotiations, right? In the build model, of course, you put a price to everything. If it's a 30-second promo tag, you put a price on that entire 30-second promo because the channel is creating it for you. If you had not briefed, they wouldn't have created this. So you put a costing on each and every parameter in the build model. Yeah. Examples of the different types of buys. This is your simple, program buys where you have different time bands, where you have prime time, weekends, and you check on your evening prime time percentages. You check your CPRP. What is the kind of CPRP you're getting? What is your target? GC and movies are reach channels, so you evaluate it on CPRP. Your English channels, news, infotainment, they are all frequency build-up channels, hence they're evaluated on rate per 10 second. Again, CPRP on a female TG is always lower than a male TG as far as GCs are concerned. But at the same time, a female TG, a CPRP on a movie genre is higher for a female TG than a male TG. So these are all the things which you really understand as and when you go about it. Always check the prime time component of a deal. A male TG plan will typically have a 70-30 PT-NPT ratio. A female TG can operate on a 50-50 PT-NPT ratio. So these are the things which, or you obviously align with your clients as well, right? You're not working in silos here. Build model, like I've already said that, if you want to showcase your brand proposition and you come across a good property where you can do that, you associate with those properties. We had done a property with Super Dancer, we had associated Cadbury Bonvita, and it brought out the proposition so well. I want to quickly show you 30-second, two 30-second segments. I don't know. I think I'll have to reshare it. Just give me 1 second. But tell me if you guys can hear the.
ऋतिक एंड प्रतीक बहुत ही मैजिकल परफॉर्मेंस था आप दोनों का, लेकिन मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि इस परफॉर्मेंस में आप दोनों की तैयारी कैसी थी?
इस बार जो हमारा एक्ट था वो हम लोगों ने थय्यम किया था और वो बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता है, उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा हैवी कॉस्ट्यूम होता है, इसलिए हम लोगों ने बैक पे वेट बांध के और रॉड बांध के रिहर्सल किया।
ऋतिक को आंखें खोलने में भी बहुत ज्यादा तकलीफ हो रही थी जब वो मेकअप हो रहा था तभी। एंड प्लस टू हैव द एंटायर आउटफिट एंड टू कीप दैट एनर्जी ऑन, वो एक बहुत मेजर चैलेंज था मेरे और ऋतिक के लिए।
आपकी मेहनत, आपके सुपर मूव्स और आपका कॉन्फिडेंस आउटस्टैंडिंग है, लेकिन इस परफॉर्मेंस के असली हकदार हैं आपकी तैयारी जीत की। एक बार जोरदार तालियां हो जाए प्रतीक एंड ऋतिक के लिए।
Just a quick.
ऋतिक एंड प्रतीक, मैजिकल परफॉर्मेंस तो आपको मिल ही गया, लेकिन मैं आपसे जानना चाहूंगा कि इस परफॉर्मेंस के लिए आपकी तैयारी कैसी थी, ये बताइए।
इस बार का जो हमारा एक्ट था वो हम लोगों ने स्कीज के ऊपर किया है और स्कीज बहुत मुश्किल होता है, वो आइस पे चलाया जाता है, सिर्फ हम लोग आगे और पीछे जा सकते हैं और हम लोग को बहुत डिफिकल्टी हुई उसको सीखने में, बार बार बैलेंस नहीं बना पा रहे थे, कभी इधर गिर रहे थे कभी इधर गिर रहे थे, मगर प्रतीक सर ने मेरे को इस एक्ट के लिए बहुत तैयारी कराई। आई होप ये एक्ट जिसको पसंद आएगा।
क्या बात है यार, आपकी मेहनत, आपके सुपर मूव्स और आपका टैलेंट तो बेहतरीन है ही, लेकिन इस परफॉर्मेंस की तारीफ के हकदार हैं आपकी तैयारी जीत की। एक बार जोरदार तालियां हो जाए।
So we had that in almost every episode, every weekend, and we there were places where we made the contestant also use a Bonvita mug and showed him, used him or her drinking Bonvita. So this happened throughout the series. So there are ways to bring out your brand proposition even if you are not creating a property of your own. And this was very, very, and I think the client has continued on this property even now, if I'm not mistaken. Another one is building where you create it from a scratch. So again, a Mondelez example where they celebrate Friendship Day. We all know Friendship Day, Valentine's Day is big for them. So we wanted to create a unique property there. I'll just show you a quick clipping where you'll understand what we did.
Are you tired of right swiping, retweeting, and sending virtual hearts? Guess what? It's time to get offline and catch your friends in 3D. How many Facebook friends do you have?
Around 500, 600.
1,000 friends on Facebook? 1,005. Wow, we've got some very popular people here, is it? Oh, wow. Enjoy this. Happy Friendship Day. Thank you so much. How many of them do you meet?
7 to 8. Around 50. 5.
20 लोगों से मिलते रोज। वाओ, ये है कौन? Superwoman. What is the craziest thing you've done with your friends?
Trespass your private property.
Went to Goa without telling parents.
Make people feel awkward.
आज से हम friends. Okay guys, I'm going to see you at the Cadbury Friendship Adda. We're going to have lots of fun there. Raghu Dixit's going to be performing live. जी हाँ, Sapphire College में होने वाला है। चलिए, इसी बात पे आपके लिए the Cadbury. Cheers.
Friendship Day. Get off your phones and meet your friends in 3D at the Cadbury Dairy Milk Friendship Adda, powered by MTV, on the 4th of August at Sophia College.
Yeah, so we went to different colleges and we promoted this and we had this huge event at Sophia College. So this was all created and curated for Mondelez, for Cadbury's. So this is your build model. So I've shown you buy, build, borrow model, and that's all from me. So any questions, please ask. बाप रे, इतना बोरिंग था क्या मेरा क्लिपिंग?
नहीं, Swarnajit has a question. Go ahead, Swarnajit.
No, I don't have actually.
ऐसे ही हाथ रेस कर दिया तूने.
No, I was going to applaud,
Practice
but
how,
the
practice.
reaction went some to the hands up.
So actually, the applause part for the entire process of buying in the impact properties.
Thank you, Soljit. Thank you.
No, thank you, Vinita. I think it was quite an engaging sessions. I think crossing the time and also the fact that it started with a lot of engaging interactions in the start itself. So thank you so much.
Sorry, I
Any
had to rush the
questions?
last part because we were like really overshot on time. So
I think we did quite well. Anybody has any questions? वरना विनीता तो इधर ही है, पूछ सकते हो उससे सेशन के बाद भी.
सारे क्वेश्चन बाइंग पे थे. बाइंग कैसे करना है बताओ.
हमारा टॉपिक ही यही था ना, all about buying only.
Kala, still you have that opinion?
Yeah.
Putting people on the spot.
अरे ठीक है यार, छोड़ दे उसको.
कुछ ओपिनियन नहीं है, बट हाँ मे बी तभी मेरे को ये था ना, अभी शायद सोच रही हूँ नहीं चेंज करना था. आई शुड हैव स्टक ऑन टू बाइंग ओनली.
और कुछ नहीं तो पार्टी के पासेस तो मिल ही जाते कल.
तभी मिलते थे. देखो मैं बाइंग also buying I became by chance, not because I wanted to. I was just picked up for buying, that's all. So that's what it is. You just randomly picked up, तू buying करेगी, so you allowed.
It's okay Kala, it's okay. बख्शा तुझे, बख्श दिया तुझे. It's okay.
ठीक है जी. Yeah, thank you so much, Vinita.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Vinita.
you.
Super
Thank
exciting.
you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much, Vanita. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.